All right. Hey, welcome to the Four Pillars of Men's Health. So glad you joined us today. One of the things that I have struggled with and kind of the thing that launched me into this journey of good health is watching guys around me get sick and not be able to fulfill their mission in life. And today I have a great interview with a guy that I met at a USAT triathlon training event down in California. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate you asking me to be part of this.
Yeah, you bet. And so Brian, just a little bit about Brian that I know of is he's an active Air Force.
Yeah.
Air Force guy, flies those F-16s, so that's pretty amazing. And he has his own thing that I want to key into here for you, Brian, and for our audience is that Brian has this a company in Arizona. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
Kona, and it's an endurance coaching organization. And so what I really want for us to hear from Brian, and Brian, for you to tell us is, how is it that we can go from a place of, at one point in my life, I was like, couldn't like run. I wasn't active, and I was pre-diabetic. I weighed nearly 250 pounds. And so I've been pounding that to my audience for years now, but I really want to hear from you about that, that journey for you, and, what your thoughts on that whole thing. But first, why don't you fill us in a little bit more about who you are, what you do, that kind of thing. I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but what do you,
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of this will tie into what you're talking about too. I'll get to that in a minute. I've been coaching endurance sports for a little over 20 years. Started as a runner in high school, and then went into being a cyclist in college, and then went into triathlon while I was in the military, and had some really cool opportunities to do a bunch of different things. Raced while in the military, still am in the military. I'm in the National Guard right now. Raced duathlon, triathlon, quadrathlon, short course, long course, everything. So I spent a ton of time doing all of that and getting into the teaching aspect. I became a flight instructor in the F-16. Wow. And developed a love for teaching and developed a skill for teaching. Yeah. And then I took that into the triathlon world and started coaching. Yeah. Then in a number of years ago, I got into an injury. I affected in a mountain bike. I was racing pro level on mountain bike, and I just about ripped my foot off my leg with an injury. Through that process of the injury itself, it's the same fracture mechanic that sidelined Joe Theismann. So through that, the subsequent infections and all of the things with that, I was told I would never walk again. I'd never run again. I'd never fly airplanes again. So kind of to your point, I had that choice of I could either be sedentary or get back on the horse and go. So fast forward a little bit to your original question, who am I now? I'm still active in the National Guard, commander of my unit. I've grown Grasky Endurance Coaching to a national level coaching company where we coach individuals. I personally coach individuals and mentor coaches. I'm one of USA Triathlon's lead educators at the level 1, 2, and 3 level. I own a couple of bicycle and triathlon shops and speak on different endurance topics, such as this. So I've kind of taken that not away from coaching, but added to that the ability to discuss and to connect with people, because I'm so passionate about where we are in fitness and how that helps us. Yeah. So back up to the doctor that told me I'd never run again. I've since done triathlons. I've done mountain bike races. I've run plenty. So there is a power in how we interact with our bodies and how we command and control our bodies into doing what we need to do.
Wow, that's an incredible story. And I can tell you, I really enjoyed your sessions down at that event that I went to in California. So thanks for inspiring people. That's pretty awesome. So just before we launch into the kind of nugget of this thing, what do you? So it sounds like you're really focused around triathlon, biking, running, swimming. Why why not choose, weightlifting or some other kind of a fitness type of program? What do you see as some main benefits of getting into triathlon? How's that help somebody?
There's lots to it. Overall, big picture, I don't care what kind of sport activity or anything anybody's into. It's a matter of being active and doing something, right? That's the overall basis. In my unit here, we have power lifters, we have endurance athletes, we have people that love to play basketball and softball on the weekends. And as long as there's an activity to it, there's going to be health gains, right? Me personally, I got involved with, I started as a runner, then became a cyclist, and I loved the freedom of just being able to go. When I was in college, I attended the Air Force Academy, and the entire freshman year, you're not allowed to leave the campus of the academy. It's just part of the rules there. But I could get on my bike as part of the cycling team and go wherever I wanted. So it became a source of freedom for me. And it still is. Now sometimes that freedom is getting away from some stress at work. Sometimes that freedom is my 4 kids, all that. So I get to just kind of turn off life and go enjoy that freedom. So from a scientific standpoint, from a coach standpoint, there's a lot of benefit in the combination of strength training, which helps muscle growth and development, which helps structural development, which helps us age, especially as we get later in years, along with the aerobic side, which helps us maintain range of motion, maintain bodily function, maintain cardiovascular energy. All those things in combination is really how we're going to maintain our body to help serve us as we grow into our 40s, 50s, and beyond. Yeah.
It's so, I found I'm getting close to getting to 60. And so I found that if use it or lose it has been such a big thing for me. I've seen that like firsthand. Usually I take some time off, like at the end of the year, and man, getting back into it is, it's not as easy as it once was. So to me, it's like you have to just keep at this thing and keep maintaining your body through fitness, but also nutrition. And I'm sure you talk to people about all that stuff, nutrition, the way you process your thoughts, all that stuff. So yeah, so I found that triathlon is such a great all around workout for upper body, lower body, cardiovascular. It's all like, so it just gets it all. To me, it gets it all. So I think that's a great thing. So
it is. And the reason I initially became a cyclist is not an unusual story. I was getting injured just running. And so I turned to cycling as a source of injury relief. Right. And I found that to be the case with a lot of people. But now as a triathlete, I get to manage that real time, and I don't get the overuse injuries. I don't get the pains that I had before. And I think there's a real power in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember getting I fell off my bike one time and got a pretty, not kind of a severe shoulder injury. But I was able to I couldn't swim, but I was able to run, and I could bike it a little bit. And I just kept going with that. And pretty soon it just like came back, and so having those options is pretty cool. So Brian, I'm picturing this guy, because this is me, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I'm picturing this guy that, stuck on the couch, you kind of not knowing where to go, how to get fitness back in your life, how to like get healthy again. And so what do you have some steps or some thoughts on how do you where's the motivation come from? Where do you go? I mean, if you go too fast, you're going to hurt yourself. All those things about like, how do you get started with this? And what are some steps that guys can take to start getting healthy again?
Yeah, I think, and that's a lot of us, right? Whether it's a short period of time with an injury, whether it's, as you mentioned, an off season, or whether that's just our lifestyle right now through a series of things. A lot of us are in that boat. I think the first step is realize where we are. So we always have to start where we are, no matter what we're doing, and that's imperative. So if we think about it, our bodies are no different than the bodies talked about by Einstein when he said, bodies at motion tend to stay at motion, bodies at rest tend to stay at rest. So if we're already a body at rest, in other words, we are in a sedentary time, it does take some inertia to get us out of that. And that inertia can lead to some injury and things. When we're sedentary, or not even sedentary, when we're stationary for any period of time, muscles and sinew and soft tissue tend to tighten. Muscles can atrophy. They can shorten, especially if you spend a lot of time seated. You'll get tightened hip flexors and psoas. And if you spend a lot of time driving on the computer, your chest is going to tighten, your back is going to loosen. And so we become less mobile the more we stay in one position. And that can include, sitting on the couch, laying in bed if we're injured, whatever.
Yeah.
So the first step is start where we are. That's where we are. What we need to do is now become that body in motion. But we're going to injure ourselves if we just pick up and go, I'm going to go run a 5K today. So at this point, the next step is gain some motivation. So the motivation piece can be internal. I want to take better care of myself. I want to be around for my family. I want to look better. I want to feel better, whatever that is. I want to lower my insurance costs, whatever, right? So we've got to get a motivation. Sometimes that motivation can be external, a wife, a spouse, a child, somebody looking at us, and maybe we don't like the way they're looking at us, or a wife is worried about her health, or kids are worried about us being around for a long time. So that external motivation can be there too. It could also be friends. A friend did a 5K, a friend did a triathlon. So we need to find that motivation, and we need to internalize that motivation and say, this really is something that's meaningful to me, because then I need to action that. So part of that action is going to include two things. So action being that third step is really going to include two things. The first is a plan. Have not just go out there and to your point, if I just go out there and run, we're going to injure ourselves. So have a plan. Might be, depending on where we are right now, back to step one, it might be that plan is, let's build some flexibility. Let's build some range of motion. Let's build some basic strength. Let's just get used to doing something. Maybe walking around the block is the first workout, right? And this shouldn't be seen as just noticing that first step and then realizing this, and thinking about this being a long road. But we need to think about that first step as we're taking the first step as a positive thing. But we need to have a plan. With that plan, generally when we pick up and go drive to wherever, we get a roadmap, or nowadays Google. But at least we know what those turns are going to be, and we have something helping us with that. And we need that guidance as we get off the couch as well. That can be a coach, it can be a physical therapist, somebody that has some expertise, that has an unbiased outside view, looking at where we are and where we want to go, and helping us build that roadblock from where we are now to where we want to go. And bringing in all the things to that. Along with activity is going to be recovery. When we train, we break down our body. We're breaking down muscle tissue, we're breaking down soft tissue. We're causing breakdowns so that the body can rebuild itself stronger. But if we don't allow for that rest and recovery, if we don't allow for that nutritional rest and recovery, for the different pieces to go in, the body care that goes into that, we're not going to hit the recovery, and we're just going to build that injury, right? And we see that all the time as coaches. And then the second piece of that is the accountability that goes with that. There are going to be dark days. There are going to be days that it's cold outside, or that we don't want to get up when it's dark, or, the bed is warm and outside is cold, or, we can come up with 1,000 excuses not to do stuff, right? There's always stuff, especially if we are talking, gentlemen like ourselves, there's always something else to do. There's always job stuff. There's always more responsibility. We can come up with 1,000 excuses, and they're all valid. But at some point, we need to put ourselves as a priority, which we are not good at doing. And that's where that accountability can come in. Sometimes a spouse or a friend can be that. Sometimes a training partner, somebody has a similar goal and motivation. But as a coach, that's my primary job with my athletes, is to be that accountability, to be there on the phone, say, how did that workout go today? Why didn't you make that happen? Why didn't you do this? Or on the other hand, great job in that, did this or that. So that accountability is imperative, because we're going to do more if there's somebody holding us accountable. That's just human nature. As we go through that, we need to take ownership of where we are, to get that motivation, to get where we want to go, and to get that team around us to help. With the plan and the accountability. It may be, like I mentioned, coaches. And again, I love these stories when someone talks to me as a coach about these kind of things. But I do encourage them to work on getting a team together that has, massage therapy, chiropractic, a doctor, physical therapist, all those kind of people that can help us along that way. Doesn't mean we're going to spend $500 a week going to all these people, but we're going to have them there when we need them.
Right. So I'm just curious a little bit deeper into your point number one, kind of know where you are. Mm-hmm. So what kind of guy that's listening to this, what kind of guy, some tools, or do you have any thoughts on how can a guy go through some self-discovery and learn more about like where they are? I remember a fitness coach of mine did like some incredible things for me. Just kind of, when I first started triathlon, he was a triathlon coach. He went and he looked at my running position. He looked at he set my bike up. He fitted me on a bike. He got me, I just started swimming not too long ago. He got me some swimming lessons.
Perfect. Good.
Like horribly embarrassing, but I mean, if you don't know, you got to jump in there.
Right. Yeah.
Because one thing I don't want to have guys here is that you can, in 2 weeks, you can go do an Ironman, from on the couch to Ironman 2 weeks. Now, if you're 18, 20 years old, that might happen, but you're never going to do it again because you'll hate it so much.
Right.
But when we're older like this, how do we analyze that? How do we know where we're at? What kind of things should we be looking for when we analyze ourselves?
Great series of questions, and really, it's going to take the biggest piece of that is a little bit of humility, and I say that because we do need to be able to. The ideal case here is I want to discover who I am. I want to figure out where I'm at, and I've made the decision. I want to change, where I'm at, whether that's my mental state, my body composition, my overall strength, how I feel. I've decided to make the change. So now I need to figure out where I'm at. I'm going to go to a coach, a friend, a physical therapist, a doctor, and I'm going to first just express that. And it takes that acceptance of, I haven't been doing what I need to do. I haven't been doing what I want to do. And that's a vulnerability that we need to be able to accept and say, I need help, right? So then the piece of, and that's probably the hardest part, because especially guys, we don't like doing that, right? Then we got to take that humility, as you mentioned, and allow that help to come in. We need to go to somebody who can look at us and go, hey, I need to put you on the video on a treadmill and see how you run. I mean, take you to the track with a video camera. Right. I want to look at your bike fit. I want to look at your swim form. Yeah. And we need that, again, I use that word humility. We need a little bit of humility to be able to go in there and go, all right, I'm a blank slate. I'm going to allow you to change this as I need. And again, there's a vulnerability in that. And again, we're not good at that. So the first is asking for help. As a coach, I get this fairly often. And we have my coaching team, we have 3 coaches here in Tucson, and we have quite a number of people that come to us just like this with, here's who I am, I need help, I want to do something. And we'll talk them through what that means, but it always starts with just a conversation of, why do you want to change? What do you want to change? Where do you feel your strengths and limiters? But then the next step very quickly is, let's just watch you move. Yeah. Let's watch you run. Let's watch you bike. Let's watch you swim. If we're walking, let's just watch you walk. Let's see the structure. Let's see the musculature. Let's see if you're comfortable during all this. Yeah. But run analyses, bike fit, imperative, swim form, absolutely imperative, so that we can minimize the risk of any injury as we go from stationary to movement, and we add more risk just in that. We need to risk reduce the risk of injury that can come with that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Brian. Hey, so kind of, I mean, as we're talking through this, my mind is kind of going, for me personally, and maybe for some guys that are listening to this, is, man, you know what? I think this would be pretty cool if I could have somebody like Brian around that I could go snag a cup of coffee with, and just, get into this a little deeper. So do you have a way that people, if they don't live in Tucson, do you have a way of connecting with people? You coach? How does that work? Can like if someone's listening to this and they want to, this guy's like, I want to get in with this guy. Can that happen? Or how do you have this thing set up?
Absolutely. We help athletes all around the country, all around the world, really. And I've worked with triathletes, runners, swimmers, cyclists. I've worked with MMA fighters, motocross racers, obstacle course racers. There's a lot. Athletes are athletes, and people are people.
Yeah.
My website is graskyendurance.com. Grasky is Grasky. My email address is brian@graskyendurance.com. People can reach out there. There's contact us pages on the website. And I'm more than happy to have these conversations with folks, with individuals. Yeah. A lot of people will need somebody that's local that they can sit across and have a no kidding cup of coffee with. So I do encourage you to reach out locally. You can go through the USA Triathlon website and find coaches in your area. Yeah. And I do encourage that. Any coach, maybe I say this biased because I'm one of their educators, but any coach trained in the USA Triathlon training pipeline is going to have some capability and ability to do this. So, this really is the part of coaching that makes my heart warm, is when we can see somebody that wants to make that change, is motivated to do it, and makes that change. I've had a ton of fun success stories with one gentleman came to me. He was 50, low 50s age, business owner, no time for anything, but he wanted to commit to himself. We met over coffee, literally one morning. That next afternoon, I was at him with the pool. He had had a traumatic experience as a kid, and he had never been in a pool since he was 8 years old. First time getting in the pool, we got him into his waist on the ladder, and that was it. The next time we got him up to his shoulders. Yeah. By the time he did his first triathlon, he held onto the wall. It was a pool triathlon. He held onto his wall the entire swim and just moved along the wall.
Wow.
But he completed it.
That's
the next season, he completed it without ever touching the wall. And to see that personal gain, he ended up losing some weight, and just self-confidence grew. He was healthier. He didn't, have to go see doctors as much. Yeah. There was a ton of that. So if we take these steps and we admit that, or we accept the fact that we need some help and we go seek that out, we can make some huge changes in ourselves.
That's cool. Yeah. I just, when you brought that first point up about like, where are we? My mind went to, so if you can do some self-discovery about where you are, it actually creates like a benchmark.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, so 6 months ago, I could not do a push-up, and now I'm doing 5 push-ups or whatever the improvement is. And you can say, wow, this is really working. And it might not be like, you might not be Arnold Schwarzenegger yet, but the improvement, you've set some benchmarks, and you can say to yourself, I'm doing it. And I really appreciated that, that first point. So, all right. Any last closing comments, Brian, from you?
Yeah, the biggest thing, you kind of brought this up to my brain as well. A lot of times we won't see changes as they happen, right? Aerobic benefits take months to really make a big change. Strength benefits can take weeks to make a big change. Yeah. And a lot of times we get frustrated because we commit and we go and we invest time and energy, but we don't see that change right now. Yeah. So what we need to think about is we're moving a big ship with a small rudder. I'm using Navy analogies. I'm an Air Force guy, but what we need to be able to look at is we're still feeling the wind in our face as we stand on the bow of this ship that we're trying to move. Yeah. We can't look forward at this right now. Every once in a while, to your point, we have to look back and see where we've been. Look at those baselines. Because if we do look back on the ship, we're going to see that trail of that churned water that is in a curve and an arc, and we're going to see that we are moving. Right. And then we can get excited for the future again. So the biggest thing with this, it is not an overnight change. If it is, it's wrong, right? Every simple and easy solution for big change, let me say this again. Every problem has a quick and easy solution for big change, and it's wrong. Yeah. We need slow, progressive change to make lasting effects.
That is so, we could do a separate podcast just on that. That is so important to get that, because most of us just want, our instant society, we go, grab a Big Mac and you're wolfing down a meal in 5 minutes. You go over here and you're doing something else in 5 minutes. And this stuff it's not that way. It just doesn't work that way. So I appreciate you bringing up that point. Hey, Brian, I really appreciate you being here. And Brian, I'm going to put your email, if it's okay, I'm going to put your email and your website in the notes here so people can get a hold of you. But I would encourage anybody who's trying to get back to health again to get a hold of at least somebody like Brian. If not Brian, get a hold of him and And I think his website has a good explanation of his program, and you can check it out and get a hold of him and see what he can do for me. I think it'll change your life. So thanks again for joining us. Brian, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.